The story does not begin with a stage. It begins with a child. A boy who was never supposed to be the center. A kid who entered the industry not as a prodigy, not as a genius, but as the youngest. The one protected, the one underestimated, the one people smiled at, not feared. Lee Taemin was 12 years old when the world first saw him, too young to understand fame, too young to tarry expectation, too young to know that the industry would demand not just talent, but survival. SHINee debuted in 2008, sharp, synchronized, different. They weren't loud, they weren't rebellious, they were precise, clean, experimental. And Taemin? He was quiet. In the early years, his voice barely cut through the mix. He stood at the edge of formations. His role was clear: dance well, stay small, grow later. But here's the thing about pressure. It either crushes you or it forges you. Taemin chose the second. While others slept, he practiced. While others enjoyed youth, he chased mastery. Not because he was forced, but because he was hungry. You can see it in the old footage, the way his eyes linger longer than the camera, the way his body moves like it's thinking faster than words. Dance became his language before his voice ever did. And slowly, quietly, without announcement, the balance shifted. By the time SHINee hit their stride, Taemin was no longer the youngest. He was the center of gravity. His movements weren't flashy, they were intentional, controlled, dangerous in their precision. Then came the moment that changed everything, the solo debut. Ace, a title that sounded confident, almost arrogant, and yet no one was sure if the industry would accept him. Because Taemin didn't debut as the safe choice, he debuted as a risk. Dark, androgynous, vulnerable, provocative. He didn't sell comfort, he sold tension. In an industry obsessed with clear images, Taemin blurred every line. Masculine, feminine, innocent, sinister, sometimes all at once, and people didn't know what to do with him. Some criticized, some were uncomfortable, some didn't understand. But art isn't meant to be understood immediately, it's meant to be felt. With every comeback, press your number, move, want, criminal, advice, Taemin didn't chase trends. He built a universe. A solo career so strong it didn't feel like a side project. It felt like a second destiny. And still, he never left SHINee behind. That's the part people forget. No matter how high his solo career rose, no matter how iconic his stages became, Taemin always returned to the group not as a star, but as a member. SHINee wasn't his past, it was his foundation. And then came the hardest chapter: loss. Grief that no choreography can mask, pain that no spotlight can hide. The group paused, the industry watched, and Taemin, like the others, carried on not because it was easy, but because stopping would mean letting the story end too soon. Military service came, a pause that should have been quiet. Instead, it became another test: physical strain, mental exhaustion, a reminder that even legends are human. And when he returned, he didn't come back softer, he came back sharper, more controlled, more intentional, less interested in pleasing, more focused on truth. Taemin today is not just an idol, he's a benchmark. You don't compare him to others, you measure others against him. As a dancer, he's studied. As a performer, he's feared. As an artist, he's respected. And as part of SHINee, he is proof of what longevity looks like when talent meets discipline. Not loud success, not viral hype, but the kind that lasts, the kind that evolves, the kind that survives everything. This is Taemin, not the youngest, not the quiet one, but the standard. If Taemin is discipline, Key is defiance. Kim Ki-bum did not enter this industry to fit in. He entered it to rewrite the dress code. From the beginning, Ki was different in a way that made people uncomfortable. Not loud enough to be dismissed, not quiet enough to be ignored. Too honest, too styled, too opinionated. In an industry that rewards obedience, Ki showed up with taste. SHINee debuted clean, synchronized, futuristic, and inside that precision was Ki, sharp tongue, sharp mind, sharper eye. He wasn't just learning choreography, he was studying cameras, studying fashion, studying branding before idols were allowed to talk about branding. Ki understood something early that most idols learn too late. Talent gets you noticed, identity makes you unforgettable. While others waited to be styled, he styled himself. While others followed concepts, he questioned them. While others smiled for approval, he challenged narratives. And it cost him. He was labeled difficult, too opinionated, too much. Translation, too powerful to control. But SHINee needed that energy, because balance matters. Where one member softens, another sharpens. Where one comforts, another disrupts. Ki disrupted, on purpose. Vocally, he wasn't handed the spotlight. He fought for space, built his tone, learned how to slice through harmonies with clarity and attitude. His voice wasn't meant to blend quietly, it was meant to cut. And then came variety shows, a dangerous place for idols who don't think fast. Ki thrived, witty, observant, unfiltered but never stupid. He wasn't funny because he tried, he was funny because he was honest. He said what others thought and were afraid to say, and the public noticed. Slowly, Ki became something rare, an idol respected outside the fandom. Fashion insiders watched him, designers listened, stylists referenced him, not because he wore expensive clothes, but because he understood why clothes matter. Fashion to Ki was language, armor, statement. And when his solo era arrived, it wasn't safe. Face, retro, bold, unapologetic, no begging for validation, no soft introduction, just, this is who I am, catch up or step aside. His solo work wasn't about vocals alone, it was about direction. Every comeback felt intentional, every visual had commentary, every performance had attitude. Ki didn't want to be loved by everyone, he wanted to be respected by those who understood. And yet, behind the confidence was pressure. Being outspoken means being misunderstood. Being stylish means being criticized. Being different means standing alone more often than not. Ki carried that quietly. Military service came, and when he returned, something had changed. Not less confidence, more clarity. His post-military era wasn't about proving himself, it was about owning his lane. Music, fashion, TV, theater. Ki didn't diversify to stay relevant, he diversified because he could. And through all of it, SHINee remained home. No matter how strong his solo identity became, no matter how established his individual brand was, Ki never detached from the group. Because SHINee wasn't a limitation, it was a system where 5 different energies learned how to coexist. And Ki was the mirror. The one who reflected truth when things got too polished, the one who reminded the group and the industry that perfection without personality is boring. Ki's success isn't measured in numbers alone, it's measured in influence, in idols who dress bolder, in concepts that dare more, in artists who speak up instead of shrinking. He didn't follow the idol blueprint, he edited it. This is Ki. Not the loud one, not the funny one, the necessary one. Every group needs a center, not the visual center, not the dance center, the emotional center. For SHINee, that center was always on you. Lee Jin-ki didn't lead with volume, he led with stability. In an industry obsessed with sharpness, Onew arrived soft, warm, grounded. A voice that didn't demand attention, it earned trust. From the beginning, he was chosen as leader not because he dominated, but because he listened. SHINee's early years were chaos behind the polish, schedules that blurred into exhaustion, expectations rising faster than experience. And in the middle of everything was Onew, holding balance where others could have broken. Vocally, his tone was unmistakable, not flashy, not aggressive, comforting. The kind of voice that doesn't chase high notes, it carries them. In SHINee's discography, Onew is the anchor. When harmonies soar, he grounds them. When concepts shift, his voice keeps the identity intact. He was never the loudest presence on stage, but when he sang, the room listened. And yet, being the emotional core comes at a cost. Leaders absorb pressure in silence. They manage moods, conflicts, fears, without applause.
Onew did that for years. Then came the moments no script prepares you for. Public scrutiny, mistakes magnified, health battles fought privately. There were times when Onew stepped back, not because he was weak, but because strength sometimes means knowing when to pause. And the pause was loud. Fans worried. The group felt incomplete. But healing isn't linear, and leadership isn't about pretending you're fine. When Onew returned, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, intentional. Just like him. His solo career reflected that same truth. Soft rock, ballads, music that doesn't chase charts, it settles into hearts. Onew's solo work isn't about reinvention, it's about honesty. A man singing in his natural register, a voice allowed to breathe. No forced personas, no heavy symbolism, just emotion, delivered clean. And in SHINee's later years, his role became even clearer. When loss reshaped the group forever, Onew became the emotional spine. Not by speeches, not by explanations, but by staying, by continuing to sing, by continuing to stand with the others on stage, even when it hurt. That kind of leadership doesn't trend, it endures. Onew's success isn't measured in headlines, it's measured in longevity. In the way younger idols cite his tone as reference, in the way fans describe his voice as home. He didn't burn bright and fade fast. He chose sustainability, and that choice kept SHINee alive. This is Onew, not the soft one, not the fragile one, the steady one, the one who carried the weight when no one was watching. Some voices are trained. Some are perfected, and some are born carrying too much feeling to ever be simple. Jonghyun was never meant to be background music. From the very first note, his voice cut through SHINee like a confession, not just powerful, exposed. He didn't sing to impress, he sang like he had something urgent to say. In SHINee's early years, Jonghyun stood out immediately. Main vocal, yes, but that label was too small. He was emotion, amplified. Where others followed melody, Jonghyun chased meaning. He wrote lyrics early, fought deeply, felt intensely. Too intensely, some would say. But that intensity is what made SHINee's music human. Listen closely to their discography. When a line hurts, it's often Jonghyun. When a note breaks your chest, it's him. He didn't just perform songs, he inhabited them. And offstage, he was thoughtful, articulate, uncomfortable with superficiality. Jonghyun questioned everything: the industry, masculinity, success, identity, pain. At a time when idols were expected to be silent, he spoke. On radio, in interviews, through lyrics that were too honest to be safe. His solo career was not a side project, it was a diary. Bass, Story Op 1, Story Op 2, She Is. These weren't albums built for charts, they were built for expression. Jazz, R&B, funk, ballad, genres chosen not for trends, but for truth. Jonghyun didn't want to be polished, he wanted to be understood. And yet, the paradox: the man who comforted millions was fighting a war inside himself. The industry teaches idols how to perform pain, but not how to survive it. Jonghyun carried expectations, empathy, responsibility, and a depth of feeling the world often misunderstands. When he left, the silence was unbearable. Not just for SHINee, for the industry, for fans who had found themselves in his words. The stage went dark. The question hung in the air. How do you continue after losing a voice like that? SHINee didn't replace him. They didn't erase him. They carried him. Every comeback after that moment is layered with absence. Every harmony has space where his voice once lived. And yet, his presence never disappeared. Because Jonghyun is embedded in SHINee's DNA, in the emotional honesty of their music, in the courage to feel deeply, in the refusal to become hollow. Jonghyun's legacy is not tragedy, it is impact. Idols today speak more openly because he did. Artists write more honestly because he dared. Fans feel less alone because his words once reached them. He wasn't weak, he was sensitive in a world that punishes sensitivity. And sensitivity, when combined with talent, creates art that outlives the artist. This is Jonghyun, not a memory, not a cautionary tale, a voice that changed the emotional language of K-pop and never left. Every group needs a heartbeat, the one that keeps pushing forward when energy drops, the one that refuses to let the room go quiet. For SHINee, that heartbeat was Minho. Choi Minho didn't enter the industry to be subtle. He entered it like a challenge. Tall, intense, competitive to the core. From day one, he carried the image of strength, but what people missed was how deeply he cared. Minho is passion in its rawest form. Where others analyze, he commits. Where others hesitate, he charges. In SHINee's early years, he was often underestimated musically, labeled the rapper. Given fewer lines, expected to fill space, not define it. So he worked, relentlessly. Minho trained his voice until it could carry emotion, not just rhythm. He refined his presence until it commanded attention, without forcing it. And slowly, the narrative shifted. Minho became the bridge between performance and emotion, between power and vulnerability. On stage, he is fire. Eyes locked forward, every movement intentional. Offstage, he's loyalty, the kind that doesn't trend, the kind that stays. When SHINee faced loss, Minho became the protector, not by speaking the most, but by standing firm. Military service didn't soften him, it sharpened him. He returned grounded, clear, more comfortable with himself than ever before. His solo ventures, acting, music, variety, were never distractions, they were extensions. Minho didn't chase the spotlight, he expanded his battlefield. As an actor, he chose roles that demanded discipline. As a solo artist, he leaned into sincerity rather than spectacle. And through it all, SHINee remained central. Minho is the one who reminds the group and the fans that SHINee is not fragile, it is resilient. That joy can coexist with grief, that intensity can live beside tenderness. His success isn't loud, it's durable, built on effort, on consistency, on refusing to quit when things get uncomfortable. Minho represents endurance. When the industry changes, he adapts. When the stage gets heavy, he lifts it. This is Minho. Not just the competitive one, not just the passionate one, the one who keeps the fire burning. And now the picture is complete. 5 different forces, 1 identity. SHINee's story isn't about perfection, it's about evolution, about surviving an industry designed to replace you, about staying honest in a system that rewards silence, about continuing even when the cost is high. They didn't just succeed, they endured. And that's why they matter. Success is usually measured in numbers, albums sold, awards collected, years survived. But SHINee was never just a metric. Their success lives in something harder to quantify: trust. 5 individuals who didn't just share a stage, but shared pressure, failure, grief, growth, and time. They grew up together in public, made mistakes in front of millions, learned how to be men while the world watched. That kind of success leaves scars, and SHINee never hid theirs. They evolved with the industry instead of chasing it. While trends shifted, they refined. While others rebooted, they matured. Their music didn't age out, it aged up. And their friendship, It wasn't built on constant smiles or forced chemistry. It was built on endurance, on choosing to stay when leaving would have been easier, on respecting differences instead of flattening them, on letting each member grow individually without threatening the whole. SHINee proved something rare. You can be strong alone and still choose together. They never competed internally, they complemented. Taemin's precision, Key's intelligence, Onew's stability, Minho's fire, Jonghyun's soul. Not 5 versions of the same idea, 5 pillars holding one structure. Loss didn't erase them, it reshaped them. And instead of pretending nothing changed, they carried the change with honesty. That is not weakness, that is leadership. SHINee's legacy isn't about being perfect idols, it's about being real artists in an unreal system. They showed that longevity doesn't come from chasing relevance, it comes from integrity, from friendship that survives silence, from music that tells the truth even when it hurts, from choosing meaning over momentum. This is SHINee, not just a group, a standard, not just idols, a brotherhood, and not just a chapter in K-pop's history, but a reminder that when talent meets loyalty, the light doesn't fade, it transforms.